This is your host, Mark Karaki. Super excited to be bringing you yet another episode of the podcast. And this week, we are excited to have an awesome entrepreneur, Don Okoth, who's the co-founder at currently Sendy, right?
Yes.
And Don and I just meeting for the first time, and sometimes that's where the best stories come from, because we're expanding our reach beyond my personal network to reach out to local entrepreneurs so that you guys can tell your story. And so, yeah, introduce yourself. Tell us who you are and what you do.
Yeah. Thank you so much for having me. So Don Okoth is my name. And interesting, the name Don. So way back in the early 1970s, there's one Becky and David who were watching a lot of movies. And one movie actually caught their attention, and the movie was The Godfather.
Okay.
So
that's where your name came from?
Yeah, that's where and my dad was really fond of Don Corleone, so I think that's where the name Don comes in.
Yeah, man. And Lewis will never miss an opportunity to name their son appropriately.
Yeah.
But cool, man. Thanks for being here.
Yeah,
Super excited to kind of meet you and kind of hear your story. So give us a little bit about your background, education, where you grew up, and your professional career.
Yeah. So I started school in Riverbank Primary School.
Mm-hmm.
That's in the 1990s.
Mm-hmm.
Came up from a very not so much family, not very well-to-do family. And I think in 2002, that's where my career started. So I lost my mom in 2002.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And
Sorry
that was, it exposed me now to the world.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I had to now start taking care of my siblings.
Mm-hmm.
And at that time, what I used to do, I used to supply Silver Spring with fillet.
The hotels?
The hotels, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So ideally, that's where now the business acumen and the building up of relationships started.
Okay.
So
How did you start serving fillets to the hotel?
So my mom used to do that job.
Okay.
So my mom had introduced me to that job.
Got it.
And when she passed on, it was one of the main source of income for the family. So I had to tag along, take it up and start doing it.
Okay.
So ideally, there were very key lessons that I learned during that particular supply.
Mm-hmm.
And one of them is building relationships, because they're high season. So there's a time where the hotel might want more deliveries.
Mm.
Maybe you're used to doing just 20 kg, and now they request like for maybe 60, 40, and you might not have that capital to finance.
Okay.
So meaning you have to have a very good rapport with the suppliers,
Right.
telling them that, please give me this X, and once I get payment, I'll be able to pay back.
Right.
So that was in 2002, 2003.
Had you finished high school at the time?
No, I was still in high school.
Oh, wow.
I was still in high school. So I requested for a day, just one day to do the supplies. So luckily the days sometimes will fall on a weekend, on a Saturday. Okay. But if it's in the middle of the week, then I'll just request for one day, from school, and then probably catch up later on.
Wow. And your school was accommodating for that, or?
Yeah, it was accommodating because I was in Rungiri High School. So
Okay.
the principal knew my mom, and he knew what challenges we were going through at that particular time.
That's a very unusual for a local. I mean, that's unusual for anybody, right?
Yeah.
For a school to actually accommodate you in that way.
Yeah, because that's where the fees are coming from and all that.
That makes sense. Go get us some fees.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that was the experience. So that culture of building relationship and being able to get that business acumen, because it meant you have to buy it at a certain price, and of course mark up and sell it at a certain price and make some profit. Definitely. And manage that profit very well until the next particular supply, and differentiate between capital and profit.
Right.
So fast forward in 2003, I finished my high school. I went to Makerere University in Uganda.
Oh, really? Okay.
I think in Makerere, that's when I got now the exposure of really, really hustling, because there you're on your own. When you're in a new country, you have to actually
new relationships,
and you have to eat and all that, and school, and the pressure that comes with also Being in university, you have to take someone for a date.
And those in Uganda, they know how to go out.
Yeah. So it meant you really had to really hustle.
Yeah.
So that was in Makerere University.
How did you end up in Makerere? Why not UON?
I went for A levels. That's Form 5 and Form 6.
Okay. You have a Form 5 and Form 6?
Five and yes, 5. No, not Makerere. So you go to the local secondary schools, Form 5 and Form 6. And then from Form 5 and Form 6, that's when you join Makerere.
So you did Form 5 and 6 in
I did
Uganda.
Form 5 and Form 6.
They still have that model, right?
Yeah, they still have that model. And it was having done Form 4 and then going for A levels. I think it was the A level matures you a bit because you know in Form 4 you're still immature. So Form 5, Form 6. At that time, I think when you're finishing, you're about 18 years or 19 years. I think you're now really mature and you're good to go. So I joined Makerere University. I did economics.
I did economics as well.
Yeah, so I normally
So we have something in common.
Yeah.
Why did you pick econ? Just curious.
Ideally, what I wanted to do was law.
Okay.
So, in fact, when I was doing my choice, I did law, day, law, evening. Like, I did law. So, then one guy, and I remember this very interesting guy who came and said, he told me that, Don, you want to do law. It's good, and I know you like law. And I think that time I was reading a lot of John Grisham books. So,
in the time that's popular.
The partner and the farm and the likes, you know.
Yeah.
So he told me, Don, law is good, but sometimes it needs a very good family kind of name or family background.
Okay.
And he told me, why don't you do economics? Economics will harden you and it will put you out in the market. And I said, so you know, when you're doing the class, I said, okay, let me put economics then.
Some stranger influenced the direction of your life. So fun.
And then when I was called, it was economics.
Okay.
So I'd actually now, my mind had changed and I had shifted my mind. I knew that I was going to now do economics and make sure that I'm done with it. So the thing of not coming from a well-to-do kind of family, it means that you have to work extremely hard because it means you have a very small window.
Yeah.
There are things like fees, you can't afford things like retake, you know, I think they call it tarifas, because who will pay for it? It means accommodation, it means you have to travel back. So looking at all those costs, it means that I had to really...
a straight line between where you are and the goal.
The goal. So...
There are no redos. Okay.
Yeah, so I got focus, I got my second upper. And yeah, that was 2009, 2010, and now I have a second upper.
What's an upper?
Second upper division is, I think there's first class and then second upper division, then second lower, and then a pass. It's like a cluster, it's like a ranking.
Okay.
So first class is the best, and then followed by second upper, and then lower, and then
Which
pass.
those things don't really matter in the real world.
They don't. But you see, back then, it was, now I have an upper.
I'm an upper.
Yeah. And I come back to Nairobi and super excited, you know, like, I have an upper and everything. And I'm like, and I'm good to go. So when I came back, of course, applying for jobs. We started that time, there was these graduate trainees, where if you got a graduate trainee for like this insurance company or Kenya Revenue Authority or any form of graduate trainee, then you're like, now my career is set.
Now your upper is actually working.
My upper is now actually working. So did some few applications. Hey, nothing is coming. And you know, the HRs, okay, no offense to the HR, but there's no that courtesy call telling you, you didn't cut.
It's 200, it's 1,000
There's 1,000 applications, millions and millions of applications.
Right. They don't have the bandwidth for that.
Exactly. So I was like, now the frustration starts coming in, and you're like, now.
What happened to the fillet business, fish business?
So
fish supply business?
Since I had to move to Uganda, I left the business to the family. My dad was doing it.
Okay.
So coming back, of course, it's not very sustainable, and now I can't go back to it again. But one thing is that I'd already created some very good relationship, and that's when I also started my cloth business.
Oh, you started cloth business?
I started cloth business. That was in 2010 thereabout. Okay. So I'll go get clothes, iron them very well, wash them up, clean them up, and then
Mtumba
basically,
yes,
and then
good
iron, and then
make some money.
and make some money, and it was really making some good money.
Yeah,
about
yeah.
About I'll gross about 100,000 a month, though it was on and off, because you have to really depend on when guys have and all that. So that was in about 2010, 2009. So around that time, I met one Meshach Alois. I think he was still in university, and what really attracted to me was his brilliant mind, his processing, the way he'll process things, and his eye for technology. And I think that's when the tech, and I think for tech in Kenya, we always have to give out shout-outs to very important people. One of them is Eric Hassman, came up with this incubation, the M Lab, the IAB, which was very, very critical at that time for putting entrepreneurs, innovators together, enabling them to pitch the pivots and all that. So Meshach really had an eye for tech, and I felt that with my business acumen, with my commercial side, then I'll be able to complement him very well, where he drives the technology and the leadership aspect. He's someone who you look up to and say, okay, this is the direction that you're taking, and that's the direction when you take, you never go wrong. So that was around in 2010, 2011, and then that's when we set up the first company. It was called MTL Systems. MTL, that's Marloids Technologies Limited. And the whole idea was to build softwares. And we came up with an awesome ticketing platform where guys could book their bus ticket, their events ticket, straight on their phone. Though it was very early in the market. a lot of USSD then, there were a lot of feature phones, smartphones. I think the first phone was, Idios. That's when it was just coming out, and with an Android. And even Nokia was still in Symbian. Yeah, so it was really, we were very early in the market.
Which would have been an amazing play.
Yeah, and even right now, I think that's when most guys, I think we have companies like Bupas, who are Mook, currently doing, they took, that at that time we aggregated everything onto one particular platform where you could get your bus, events. I think it was just a lot.
Right.
And there was also one interesting thing that we did back then is that we had built a Safari Bible.
A Safari Bible?
Yeah, that was like you're able to use USSD to get the Bible scriptures. It was an awesome. This
is a big market in Africa.
It was an awesome product, but now marketing it, monetizing it was the one. It was the challenge. I remember one of the ways you could sell it was to go to Kesha at Valley Road, NPC Valley Road, because that's your target market.
These Christians need to start texting.
Get the Bible scriptures. So yeah, we came up with a lot of products and
really
experimental, innovating.
You learned a lot through that process. What are some of the main lessons you learned in that experimental phase of your development?
Well, I think one of them was to be very lean. Lean, and I think there's so many books that have come in regards to just being lean, like not lean in terms of just a business, but lean also in terms of a person, as a human being, not getting so much, not wanting so much, but just being lean and to ensure that at least you're executing. One also of the key lessons through this journey was that of hard work, because, and I think when you probably, if you're a political person, when you saw Obama's speech in 2004, it was, getting such kind of platforms are not given. You have to really earn them. It means a lot of hard work, grinding, and of course persevering. Yeah, because at that time, like I'm telling you, the market wasn't ready for most of these mobile products that we were building back then. But that perseverance of just pushing on, and you see, those are some of the first challenges that we had when we set up these particular IT products early, is that we had to do a lot of custom education. And luckily, companies like Uber and these big companies, when they came in, it was really easy now to educate the mass in terms of just downloading an app. 10 years ago or 7 years ago, no one knew about an app. Like it was something people were just doing USSD.
So you are in a tough market. Whenever you are bringing in a new innovation, and there's a, they call it like there's a gap between what people are used to doing, their behavior, and what you're trying to get them to do. That's a very tough market
extremely
to survive in at all. So that's interesting. So so now you guys, what happened to those products? Obviously, you're not working with them right now. You had to. What was the?
I think like any company or even a human being, you have to evolve.
Totally.
Yeah, you have to evolve. You're not the same person who you were 10 years ago.
Sometimes people like to stay there. You'd be surprised.
Yeah.
In our society, people really like to.
Yeah.
To camp.
Yeah. So products have to evolve, and
people have to evolve.
People have to evolve, and these things and all those experiences turn out to be something else that now are ready. That's now ready for the market.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So what was the next step? What was the next move?
So when we built all this and we got some few traction and we saw that this market now is ready, we set up Sendy, and that was in around 2014. And
where did that idea come from? What was the genesis of that? What were you trying to solve?
I think the logistics problem was just, we're just trying to make it, and even right now, we're just trying to make it easy. Logistics is very complex. And I think the whole idea back then was how when you talk about logistics, you'll just think of DHL. But what about that e-commerce guy who just wanted to do a simple delivery from point A to point B? And that was the whole genesis. And I think after working with this bus log and courier systems, we just saw that there must be an easier way of just to make logistics easier.
Would you guys just look at opportunities and say, let's try and build there? Was it just a list of things you would try, or the logistics thing, was it a problem that one of you guys had, or your family, or was it just on a list of things you're going to try? Yeah,
I think at that time also Mesh was building for the mom, so just getting things to the site also was a huge challenge. And I remember then also when we were doing the courier.
Building? He was building, you said?
A house for the mom, yeah. Okay. So just getting that particular materials to the site, was really a challenge. Another time also when doing the courier system for one of the bus companies, you'll find that you'll have customers, they'll receive notification that your package has arrived or your package is here, but just going all the way to River Road just to get that parcel. That last 2 miles. That's that last mile. So ideally the first prototype was more of an errand app, like just helping. An errand app. Okay. Yeah, just. So basically, yeah, I get it. Just being able to log in on a login and just connect with a rider who's able to now do that particular errand, and you guys can even actually agree on the rates that you want to charge. Right. And of course that also evolved until we reach this particular point that we are in right now. Got it. And so what do you guys do right now? I mean, you go from an errand app. What is Sendy right now? Right now Sendy is more of a platform that enables businesses to trade. So we don't only do deliveries from bikes, but we do all the way from freight business. So currently, I'm the country manager for freight. So freight is more of the 28 tonners. Okay. So last mile. So we work with companies like mailers, FMCG, freight forwarders, as well as fertilizer or agriculture. So these guys either get things from the port to their factories, and then they have to process, and then now again we'd still come and do last mile for them. And before Sendy, what were they doing? Were they just calling different transporters? Was it just like ask for transport? Yeah, ask for transport, and I can also maybe go back and take you back to maybe even the taxi. We used to call them Karura. Yeah, I remember those. Yeah. So it's the same where you just walk out and say, "Can you move these things from point A to point B?" And they'll say, "Yes, we can." But in the course of the journey, the guy will call you back and say, "No, these things are too heavy." Let's renegotiate. Let's renegotiate, and just bring that professionalism now to that structure, predictability, smoothness of streamlining that whole process. It can be very difficult if you have to negotiate every single. You have to negotiate with different service providers all the time, different service levels. So that's awesome. So tell me a little bit about tell the audience a little bit about how you guys evolved from just the errand, rider thing. What's been that journey like? How did you move from level to level to level? Of course, I can't go into detail.
That's fine.
But ideally, when you build a product and you have a unique USP or UVP at that particular point, then in most cases you find out the customers are the ones who direct this particular product.
Exactly.
So when you build on, let's say, for example, the first one is bikes. The bikes also has, you're only able to do only 300 kg on the bike. So meaning if a customer has a huge or maybe a 1 ton kind of consignment, then you've limited that particular customer.
Right.
So meaning you have to go back to the drawing board and give this particular customer value service. And that's why now you introduce maybe a different vendor type. Okay. That could be van, and it goes all the way up to 28 tons.
So you just follow the market where it's leading.
Exactly.
That's really cool. And you guys obviously have done really well. And it's super exciting to actually see, because the logistics business is definitely what drives the economy in a real sense. And to see that you guys are local founders who've actually built it organically from the bottom up. What are some of the challenges that you guys experience? Maybe top 3, if you can. What are some of the challenges you've experienced?
I think for me, Don, in this particular journey, the main challenges were actually when we started off, is that you anticipate, this happens to all startups. You say, for example, my market is, how many, what did the CCK or CA, Communications Authority, say how many mobile subscribers we have? We say 30 million. 30 million is my customer. So that's where you start from. But ideally, one of the biggest challenges is that you have to segment that particular market. So in the process of segmenting that particular market, that's when you know what clear USP or what clear value are you giving that particular segment of customers. So I think one of them was just the market. Sometimes you'll enter into defining the market, clarity. So you'll enter into businesses where you find that you thought the market was big, but again the market is a bit small. Setting up companies in Kenya is not easy. The legal process.
We've just been through setting up, finalizing
it's not
our
easy.
Non-profit here, and setting up the bank account. It's really hard.
Yeah, it's not.
But I've heard people say that, well, we've set up also for LLCs. That process was relatively easy. Expand a little bit on what you mean from your perspective.
I think right now it's getting better, but way back it was really hard. Meaning if you want to incorporate, and also when you're starting out, you don't have that enough capital. You cannot hire the fancy lawyers who are able to fast track for you things. So those are some of the things that also set you back a bit.
Totally.
Yeah.
Okay. And what else? What was the next challenge? Next big challenge. So we talked about misreading the market and then getting a correction. The setup of a company, but it's getting better, fortunately. What else were some of the challenges you guys?
I think this will be just people. Yeah, getting the right people on the bus sometimes can be a challenge.
Yes.
And you'll get different people coming to you, but just getting the right people who can able to go with you through this journey. It's one of also the biggest challenge, and this is something that I also for the young people. There's the get rich quick mentality, and what this does is that you start exposing yourself to a number of things like fraud. You just want to you want to collude with someone so that you can be able to make that money very fast, which I don't think it's the case.
So you guys have experienced that type of scenario where people have come in and been the wrong people? In your
Definitely. In the bus, just like a normal bus,
Yeah.
you will not always get all the right people.
How do you, now obviously you've been through a ton of people, right? Like who come through your company, right? Have you improved your ability to evaluate the right people?
And this is again where I always give back credit to Meshak and Malaika and the team and the other founders is putting our processes to actually get these particular people, using systems, so that we can be able to sieve out and just make sure that we're bringing the right people on the bus. So we've been really key on technology to ensure that we have systems that work for us in terms of getting the right kind of people in the bus.
And let's take a step back now to just our culture, right? How do you say our culture in general, is it helpful, or how would you evaluate it in terms of enabling entrepreneurship, right? How would you assess our local culture.
Yeah. One is that Kenya, we're very enterprising. There's no doubt about that.
Mm-hmm.
We are very aggressive.
Mm-hmm.
I think right now, if we stepped in Tanzania, we'll be told, yeah,
We've been told already. Right.
Yeah, so that one is very good for entrepreneurship. But the only beat that sometimes I don't agree with is the get rich mentality. These things take process. It's a process. It's a step by step. It can't come overnight. And I think especially the young guys who are coming out and probably what they've seen, and that's why you'll see a lot of people, and you just mentioned it, going to politics so that they can have that quick fix. But with that gradual patience, then and this particular culture, this particular enterprising mentality that we have, that I think we can be the hub.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, at the end of the day, there's a very strong eat what you kill mentality. I want to eat today. Yeah. I mean, at the risk and at the cost of all relationships, right? Yeah. And it's very, very unproductive because, like you said, this is it's a journey, right? Yeah. And the reality of the situation is sometimes I look at it and I say, what causes this? Obviously, it's a tough environment, right? Yeah. We're not a wealthy society by any means, so everybody's trying to make it to survive for the most part, and that breeds a certain kind of mindset, right? A certain kind of behavior, a certain kind of way that you approach the world. Long term is not something you plan for. You're trying to survive today, and unfortunately, without vision, what they say, the people perish, and that's what's happening. And so, the unfortunate thing, it's kind of tough to have a vision when you have to survive. Yeah. It doesn't come naturally. Yeah. How have you particularly navigated that? Right? What gave you that long-term mindset where you didn't try and take shortcuts? What was it?
I think one is the strong leadership that we had, and having a strong leader in the team sometimes gives you that particular vision. The other thing is also the background, and that the background that I had, just like I explained earlier on, has always drove me to create an impact, not a quick fix. Like right now, the number of people who depend on the platform just to transact and be able to get their ends meet, the kind of impact that you create, it's not about maybe even the four of us who set up the company, but it's now more like we are creating an impact to the economy beyond ourselves. Yeah. The number of people who are working for us or working for the company, then that kind of impact is what now also drives this my particular journey.
So like one of the things I also talk about culture again. It's one of the things I also see is lack of collaboration, right? Amongst just business people, especially. I think we're very good when it comes to socially, right? I love that side of us. But when business comes into the picture, I don't know if this has been your experience. It can be very what's in it for me instead of being helpful, right? What's been your experience with that from a cultural perspective?
Being I won't say the first, but I remember even the first companies that we actually won Pivotist. So there was a competition being arranged by AmLab. It was called Pivot. The first one was Pivot, and then the next one was Pivotist. So with that Pivot, we'll be incubated. So there are quite a number of companies in different utilities. I think being sometimes there the first, sometimes you don't have someone, I won't say mentor. For example, in Silicon, it's all over. It's all over. Yeah. But now in Kenya, there's no. It's an outlier, if I can say that. It's an outlier. There's no one to look up and say, okay, how did you do this? How did you navigate this? In most cases, you just have to go to the bush, figure it out yourself.
But I'm just talking about just being helpful, like people being approachable, people being just willing to just be helpful, right? So in Silicon Valley, that's a thing, right? People are actually helpful because that's just how you are, right? It doesn't matter, this, I call it bonamkubwa, right? Yeah. Just giving somebody your time and being able to say, hey, you guys are trying to do something. That is a big gap in our society.
And that's why I'm just going back, because for our parents, they know success is when you finish university, you get employed in the government, you work for some time, you get married, and then of course you become a politician, or you do there's a clear path that the society that was programmed to follow. So hence these guys sometimes don't know how to help you, and that's what I saw from my experience.
Interesting.
Yeah. So they'll say, for Don, I think he has his way figured out. Let's just, he knows his own path and all that. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I mean.
And I think getting such kind of things 10 years back was next to impossible.
Yeah, next to impossible.
Yeah.
One other thing I've also observed, I don't know if you keep up, of course everybody's online nowadays, you see a lot of energy, right, from Silicon Valley and abroad, speaking about Nigeria, Lagos, the CEO of Google was there, the founder of Twitter was there, and YC, they keep talking about them, right? So they are definitely hot right now as far as attention and resources, right? And Nairobi has kind of fallen back, right? Even now Ghana, they got their Google AI lab, they've got a lot of attention, they've got this thing called the year of return, where they positioned themselves as the place for African Americans to actually kind of land on the continent. I've seen that a lot, that's resources, that's attention, that's where are we at with that? How what's our story?
You are telling the story now.
I think so. For me, of course we have to do our core, right? You guys have to make Sendy work and all that stuff. We have to make Impact Africa work. But my whole vision, I've always known that a rising tide raises all ships. And I firmly believe Nairobi needs to have a vision of being the place where great African brands are born. Yeah. For me, I'm completely biased about this. I think we have an amazing situation to be the leading place for that. But if we don't have that vision, it's not going to happen. It's just going to be independent companies doing their thing. We need to have a unified front. We can create a brand. We can create a vision. We can start to move together in unison. Yeah. And so I find that's missing, man. I find that's missing. And even you being here, I guess why we have a podcast and why we do what we do, events and so on and so forth. Of course, we have our own kind of interests where we're building our brand. It helps us with fundraising. It helps us get out there. Yeah. But the core of it, man, is like, we need to actually have a unified, we need to move as a squad. Yeah. For me, startup number one is Nairobi, period. And because I know what a powerful ecosystem is. It's a wealth aggregation machine. It's a wealth creation machine. And
I agree 100%.
Yeah, and I struggle with that. I struggle when I reach out to people and they're not available, even to do a podcast. And it's like, dude, you guys have no clue what's happening. Yeah. This is not just about you. This is about what can we do together? How can we tell that story and be the high watermark and start to win the attention game and the resource game and the capital game and the talent game coming in? Right now, I feel like we're still being picked apart, to be fair, right? People come in and they see low-hanging fruit and they run with it. We need to come together. But I think that's changing. I sense that that's changing. I don't know what your view on that is.
Yeah, I think it is. And also, sometimes you have to look back and look at the great strides you've made. I think looking at all those incubation places, the entrepreneurship forums that are coming up, in fact, even me and you sitting here, I think that's a huge stride. And I'm sure in a couple of years, in a couple of months, I think we'll be able to make some good strides towards getting there.
I completely agree.
I'm very optimistic that Nairobi will be in the place that it should be.
Yeah, for sure. And if I have anything to do with it, and I'm sure if you guys have anything to do with it, that's going to happen. Yeah. And for me, that's my vision in terms of that bigger picture and how we can participate in that as an organization. And maybe final question here for you is, Vision 2030. Right? What do you see? What do you see happening now? what do you see happening? And what that look like in your eyes?
I think a lot is changing. A lot is changing. The consumer behavior, the buying habits, and the e-commerce aspect. Growing and growing. So what I'm seeing in 2030, there'll be a lot of technology businesses that will be in place, and these technology businesses will be able to help us stride to the next particular level.
So more jobs,
more opportunities, more innovations. Yes.
Yeah, I see multiple regionally Africa, globally dominant companies in this market.
Yeah, and just looking at, there'll be no and as we go towards 2030, 2050, 2060, you find the borders will not make sense for a business. As long as you have a unique product, then you're able to sell. The market share will be looking at the whole Africa as your market, or the whole world as your market.
That's why we need to be set.
Yeah.
We start thinking right now.
Yeah.
I mean, Kenya is too small.
Yeah.
Kenya is smaller than Texas.
Yeah.
Like one state in the U.S. Right. So super excited about what you guys are doing. You guys are blazing the trail, and congratulations on the success. I know you guys just announced a $20 million round with Toyota, and also you have Rio, who's one of Keppel Fund, who's one of your investors, is a good friend, and so congratulations on the success. It's a great story. It's a great testament to persistence, to doing things the right way. You know, what's your final few pieces of advice you would give to the ecosystem?
Yeah, I think for the upcoming entrepreneurs, the most important thing is to always work smart, build in, and be sure that you're innovating things that bring value to your particular customers. And of course, you'll win.
Thank you so much, Don. Really appreciate you coming through.
Thank
Good
you.
stuff.